Most men assume that silence means everything is finished. When the messages stop, the calls disappear, and the reactions fade away. The natural conclusion most men reach is that she has moved on and forgotten them. The mind quickly begins imagining that she has replaced you and that the connection you once shared has completely disappeared. However, that interpretation is not always accurate. Silence does not automatically mean rejection or erasure. In many cases, silence creates the exact opposite psychological effect. Instead of removing you from her mind, the lack of communication can cause her thoughts to replay memories of you repeatedly as her brain attempts to resolve something that feels unfinished. When communication suddenly stops, the human mind begins searching for closure. One of the key psychological mechanisms behind this reaction is known as the Zeigarnik effect. This concept suggests that people remember unfinished situations much more vividly than completed ones. When a relationship pauses, ends abruptly, or loses communication without clear resolution, the brain treats it like an open loop. Instead of closing the memory and moving on, the mind continues revisiting the experience in an attempt to understand what happened. This is why silence can often make someone think about you more rather than less. Think about it in simple terms. Imagine listening to a song that stops right before the chorus begins. The brain naturally wants to finish the melody. The incomplete pattern creates tension that the mind tries to resolve. Relationships function in a similar way. When emotional closure is missing, the brain keeps replaying the memories in an attempt to complete the narrative. Silence, therefore, does not erase your presence. Instead, it amplifies curiosity and unresolved emotions. Many men unintentionally destroy this psychological advantage. The moment silence appears, anxiety begins to take control. You send a message just to check in. You react to social media posts hoping to be noticed. They post emotional updates to attract attention. The problem is that these actions immediately close the psychological loop. By reaching out, you remove the mystery and provide the closure the other person's mind was trying to process. When the loop closes, the tension disappears and the curiosity fades. However, when silence continues, something different happens. Without new information from you, the brain is forced to rely on memory. She begins mentally revisiting the past, interactions, the conversations, and the emotional moments that defined your connection. During this process, another psychological pattern often appears called the fading affect bias. This principle suggests that negative emotions connected to past experiences fade faster than positive ones. Over time, arguments and frustrations become less emotionally intense, while positive memories begin to stand out more clearly. During periods of silence, the mind slowly reshapes memories. The arguments that once felt overwhelming begin to lose their emotional weight. Instead, the brain recalls the moments of laughter, comfort, and emotional safety. Memories of late-night conversations, shared jokes, and meaningful moments begin to surface more frequently. Silence becomes a kind of mental processing space where memories are reorganized. While you may be sitting there wondering why she has not reached out, there is a possibility that she is experiencing a complex internal process. She might open your profile, look at your name, or think about sending a message. Sometimes she may even start typing a text and then delete it before sending it. This hesitation does not always come from indifference. In many cases, it comes from uncertainty, pride, or the fear of rejection. In the modern digital world, silence does not always mean complete absence. Many people maintain subtle forms of observation through social media. This behavior is sometimes referred to as orbiting. Orbiting occurs when someone continues watching your online activity without directly interacting with you. They may view your stories, check your updates, or follow your posts without leaving a visible reaction. This behavior satisfies curiosity while maintaining emotional distance. By observing your life from a distance, she can stay informed about your situation without risking vulnerability. If someone truly feels no interest at all, they often disconnect completely by muting or ignoring your presence online. Continued observation can indicate that curiosity or emotional attachment still exists at some level. Another subtle form of emotional communication often appears through music and shared content. Many people express emotions indirectly by sharing songs, quotes, or posts that reflect their internal mood. Lyrics about nostalgia, reflection, or lost connections sometimes act as indirect emotional signals. While these posts are not always meant for one specific person, they can reflect the emotional state someone is currently processing. Changes in behavior. Patterns can also reveal emotional shifts. Humans naturally follow routines, especially on social media. Someone who normally posts occasionally suddenly becomes extremely active. This may represent an attempt to project happiness or distraction. Psychologists sometimes describe this as reaction formation, where individuals display exaggerated positivity to compensate for internal discomfort. On the other hand, if someone who is normally active suddenly becomes silent online, it may indicate a period of emotional processing. Another factor that often influences post-breakup psychology is comparison. When someone re-enters the dating world after a relationship, they do not begin with a completely blank mental slate. Previous relationships create emotional reference points. When meeting new people, the brain naturally compares the emotional experiences. These comparisons are rarely about superficial qualities like status or appearance. Instead, they focus on emotional safety, communication style, and compatibility. Modern dating environments can sometimes highlight these comparisons even more strongly. New interactions may initially feel exciting because novelty triggers dopamine. However, once the novelty fades, deeper compatibility becomes more important. If the emotional connection you shared was meaningful, it becomes a reference point that other experiences may be measured against. Another important psychological barrier that often prevents someone from reaching out is pride. Admitting that you miss someone or that a decision might have been a mistake requires vulnerability. For many people, especially those who initiated the distance, sending the first message feels like surrendering control. Pride and fear of rejection often create hesitation even when emotional attachment remains. This internal conflict can create cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance occurs when a person's actions and emotions contradict their beliefs. For example, someone may believe that ending the relationship was the correct decision while simultaneously feeling emotional attachment or curiosity about the other person. To reduce this discomfort, the mind may create justifications such as assuming the other person has moved on or convincing oneself that reaching out would be unnecessary. While the conscious mind attempts to maintain emotional distance, the subconscious mind often continues processing unresolved feelings. During quiet moments such as late at night or during periods of exhaustion, emotional defenses weaken. This is why messages from past partners sometimes appear during late hours when emotional resistance is lower. Dreams can also play a role in emotional processing. The brain often uses dreams to organize unresolved emotions and memories. If a relationship ended without full closure, the mind may revisit those memories during sleep. Emotional triggers can also appear unexpectedly during daily life. Familiar places, certain songs, specific scents, or shared activities can instantly bring back memories connected to someone. Psychologists describe another interesting phenomenon known as ironic process theory. This theory explains why trying to suppress a thought often makes it more persistent. When someone repeatedly tells themselves not to think about a specific person, the brain must continuously monitor whether the thought is appearing. This monitoring process, ironically, keeps the memory active. Ultimately, one of the most important factors that influences attraction and reconnection is emotional stability. When distance occurs, many people unconsciously observe how the other person responds to the situation. Emotional regulation becomes a powerful signal. If someone reacts with panic, desperation, or emotional instability, it can create pressure that pushes the other person further away. However, when someone maintains composure, focus, and self-respect, it demonstrates internal stability. Emotional stability communicates strength and self-respect. It shows that your identity, goals, and purpose are not dependent on another person's validation. Continuing to invest in your health, personal growth, career, social life reinforces the idea that your life remains meaningful and structured regardless of relationship outcomes. When someone eventually recognizes that your life continues with confidence and stability, perception often shifts. Instead of seeing you as someone who depends on their approval, they may begin to view you with increased respect. Respect often becomes the foundation upon which attraction can rebuild. Silence, therefore, does not always represent rejection. In many situations, it becomes a space where emotions, memories, and reflections develop. Instead of rushing to fill that space out of fear, focusing on self-growth can transform the situation entirely. The moment you stop chasing validation and begin strengthening your own sense of purpose is often the moment you become most magnetic. Choosing self-respect over desperation creates a powerful internal shift. When your identity is built on personal values, growth, and emotional stability, you no longer feel the need to force outcomes. Instead of waiting for someone to return, you become focused on building a life that naturally attracts the right connections. Silence then stops feeling like abandonment. It becomes a period of transformation where both people process emotions in their own way, by using that time to develop strength, clarity, and direction. You place yourself in a position where any future connection must meet the standard of the person you are becoming.